Okay. Okay, here we go.
Right.
Um, okay, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, first of all, I want to introduce my name. My name
Mhm.
is Syawal Adham, and I am currently 20 years old, and I am from KOLEJ Professional Mara, INDERA MAHKOTA, Kuantan.
Mhm.
And I was born in Perak, but raised predominantly in Selangor for the time being.
Mhm.
So, so could you please introduce yourself, Catherine?
Yes. My full name is Catherine Williams. I'm from the state of Alabama, but my parents work overseas in West Africa in the country of Senegal. So I grew up
Mm,
most of my life in Senegal, and I came back to college in 2022. I'm 21 years old, and I'm studying biology and education. So I hope to be a high school chemistry and biology teacher. So right now I'm just hanging out between Mississippi and Alabama and Texas.
sounds great. Secondly, could you tell us about your family background?
Sure. I have obviously two parents, but I have three brothers and three sisters, and I'm sort of in the middle. I have two older sisters, one older brother, a twin brother, and then a younger brother, younger sister. So we're a big family. Um, Always shared a room with a sister. So I've never had my own room, which is fun, but it's also like kind of frustrating sometimes. So yeah, all my family, my grandparents, my relatives were all Christians, and so
Mm,
that's affected me as well.
mm, all right, that's a good start. So before I start, I would like to explain briefly about these two terms,
Mhm.
pragmatics and intercultural communication. All right.
Okay.
So, so the way how I define pragmatics is referring to the way we understand and use language in social situations. This includes what we are trying to say, how we express it, our body language, and if it's appropriate with the situation. So pragmatic skills is important to express our ideas, feelings, and thoughts. So you got that?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. Okay. Secondly, intercultural communication, the way how I define it is the verbal and non-verbal interactions between people from different cultural backgrounds.
Mhm.
It can be complex due to different cultures not encoding and decoding messages the same. And
Mhm.
intercultural communication is very important as it is our critical to our ability to survive and thrive. So you get that?
Yes.
Okay. Um, Before we start the first question, okay, I think we can start now.
Mhm.
So, Catherine, the first question, what do you understand by the terms intercultural communication in your own words?
In my own words, it's a lot of what you just said, but it's being able to communicate efficiently and well between cultures. Just like you said, there are times when in one culture a certain gesture or word or phrase means something totally different in another, and so you have to be able to navigate that well. And so intercultural communication skills really help you not only you're not just saying stuff, but you're getting your entire idea across, and so there's no miscommunication, there's no misunderstanding. So
Mm,
that's all.
all
Just a second. My
right.
roommates are being a little loud. I'm gonna close the door.
Oh, it's
So
okay. It's okay.
sorry.
Take your time.
I don't want that to mess up your video.
Okay, okay. Um, okay, secondly, can you share with us about American culture, how it is different from other cultures compared to Malaysia?
Okay. A big thing I noticed between our cultures is how time is managed. In the
Yeah.
U.S., time management, we like to be exactly on time, or actually most people say you're late if you're on time and you're on time if you're early. So you have to be early to be on time. And so, which is very different from, it seemed like in Malaysia, everything's a lot more relaxed, and you get there when you get there. It's not about the time that's being spent. It's more about what you're doing with your time, who you're spending it with. So here we're always worried about schedules and when are we doing this, when are we doing that. And it seemed like in Malaysia, they're more worried about what are we doing it, who are we doing it with, if that makes sense.
So you have to be early in the American workplace. Is that correct?
Yes. I was told before I got a job, you need to be at least 5 minutes early. Otherwise, they're going to think you're slacking. And I was like, okay. So.
Precisely. Okay. Moving on to the third question. Is there any typical nonverbal signs in American culture that other cultures might find it differently, like nonverbal signs?
Yeah. I think, and I can't, not every single culture has this, but in America, at least in the South, the southern states that I'm in, we do a ton of smiling. And some cultures find that almost like fake, like, why are you smiling so much? Now, I don't know, notice as much in Malaysia if that was the case or not, but I do know that even that some people have said that they feel like Americans feel fake because they smile a lot. I'm trying to think of another good example though that's not always, I don't know, I'm trying to think. So so you said a gesture that doesn't have the same meaning as in other countries or gets misinterpreted, is that right?
It's about what the nonverbal signs in America that is different from other cultures.
Okay. Yeah. I'm trying to think. Yeah, because we give smiles to like complete strangers, and other people would find that weird. I'm trying to think though. Do y'all smile at random people in Malaysia as much, or is it kind of odd to do that?
Sometimes, yes.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's probably not very different then. I don't know. I don't know. I'm trying to think. I mean, I know one thing here is, I think this is probably pretty universal though, like crossing your arms is very much like not offensive, but it's like you look like you don't like that person, and it's like when you're crossing your arms in a conversation, it usually means you're not comfortable or you don't like them.
Is it like this?
Crossing your arms, like putting your arms in front of you, like, yeah. I don't know how to describe it. But y'all probably have that too. I don't know.
We Malaysians typically ignore people when it depends on the situations. Okay. Moving on to the fourth question. How do you think dialect affects our culture and daily life as Malaysian? Like, for example, you're from America and you came here with your own dialect, and how does that affect the daily Malaysian?
So like dialects of English, you mean?
Yeah, dialects of English.
Okay. How does it affect? There's certainly, like, in where I am, we say y'all for you all. And so I think that affects some people because they're like, y'all, what is that? I'm trying to think what else. I think also just a different, since y'all use more British English, there's some things that I found a little bit like, oh, I would have never said queue. Like people say, get in the queue. And I'm like, the queue, oh, the line. So for me, that was a little confusing when I first got there. They talk about the queue, and I was like, I don't know what the queue is. I feel like it wasn't too hard for me to understand and everything, and it wasn't a huge difference, but I'm trying to think. I think just having a different dialect in general makes you, even if it's the same language, it makes you feel like you're slightly different from that person in a bigger way than if they spoke the same dialect. And so there are times when, specifically to me, British dialect sounds very much more intelligent than like the American
Yeah, yeah.
dialect I have. And so I automatically view a lot of British dialects as, oh, they're smarter than me. They're they're smarter than me, more intelligent than me. And so I think that affected me in that way. So yeah.
Okay. So you're saying that British sounds intelligent?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not so sure about the origin of their accent, but they surely do sound very intelligent. But my accent is partially American. I don't know how to speak in British.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, moving on to the fifth question.
Okay.
As an American, how did you adapt to communicate with your friends from different cultural backgrounds?
A big thing I learned to do is just watch and listen. Don't immediately start talking and trying to be like the center of attention. You got to watch and listen and see how these people are acting, how they talk, how they interact, because then you'll be able to quickly adapt. Otherwise, you're not paying attention. So you got to pay attention and listen. And I found that that helps me the quickest because every single culture is different. And so there's not one. I think that's the only thing you can do is just to listen and to watch. Otherwise, you'll be stuck.
Yeah, instead of like interrupting the conversation, you get to observe them, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. Okay, this might be spicy. So the sixth question. I mean, not that spicy. I'm just being dramatic. Okay, sorry. Okay, sixth question. Is there any gesture or slang that is considered offensive in American culture?
Is it a Malaysian gesture that we consider offensive in America, or?
Like in
Mm-hmm.
America, that is offensive.
Yeah, there's a lot. Obviously, the middle finger is offensive. I wouldn't do it because it's offensive.
Yeah.
There's
Okay. What about the second one that you said that
like crossing your arms.
Malaysian gestures that is considered offensive in America?
Oh,
Yeah.
Malaysian ones.
Yeah.
Honestly, I didn't notice any that seemed offensive. But maybe people were being nice and weren't doing any around me because I was new there. So I don't know if there were any. I'm trying to think. I didn't see any that made me feel offended. So are there any that you know of that Americans find offensive in Malaysia?
Sorry?
Are there any? I can't think of any gestures, but are there any that you can think of that Americans find offensive from Malaysia?
I can only think about the middle finger that is just offensive. I couldn't think of any other else because I'm not that exposed toward these bad things, you know.
Same. So I think if there are any, I missed it.
All right. That's a good one. Okay. Seventh question. How does tone of voice play a role in communication in your culture? Can you give an example?
Okay, tone of voice.
Yeah.
I feel like in every culture it does. I'm trying to think though specifically of an example. Man, my mind always goes blank when I'm asked the questions, and then later I'm like, oh, there's so many good examples. So let me think here.
Take your time.
I mean, I think this is probably same thing in Malaysia, but there are phrases you can say, like, say your boss asks you to do something, and you can say, "Of course I'll do it." And you could either say that sarcastically, like, "Oh, of course I'll do that," or you could be like, "Of course I'll do it." So like your tone can really just completely flip a sentence. Like you can go from a sarcastic tone makes it sound like you're mocking them, and you're like, "I'm not going to do that," versus like compliant tone would tell them, okay, you want to do it. You can also say angry, and then they know you don't want to do it and that you're mad about it, but you're still going to do it. So there's a lot. I think that's
So,
universal though. Hmm.
so you're saying that when you use like a high tone, that's considered like disrespect. When you use like a low tone, that's considered fine.
I guess it depends on the tone, because I feel like, let me think. Yeah, I feel like it depends on how you end. I don't know how to do. I'm bad at tones in general, but like I think with women it might be slightly different. Usually, a higher pitched voice with women indicates like they're compliant, not high pitched, but not low pitched. A low pitch might make them sound less compliant. I don't know how it is with men though, because I'm not a man. Let me think. I don't know, but it seems like a lot of women that I see tend
Mhm.
to, when they want to sound more welcoming or more inviting or more just overall compliant, they'll have a slightly higher pitched voice and they'll add a bit of like a high pitch ending to each word, versus
Mm.
like if they don't want to be welcoming or inviting, they'll get a more low gravelly voice, like, and try to talk more down low in their chest. So I think that's, at least with women. I can't speak for how it is with American men though. I haven't noticed actually. So
The way how I talk to my lecturers, sometimes
mhm.
I'm not aware of my tone of voice, but they're just fine with me as long as I speak English towards them.
Mhm.
Like we do not pay attention too much about the tone of voice, but all I can say, it depends on the situation. Always
Mhm.
depends.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. Okay, the eighth question. Have you encountered any miscommunication with your friends due to your American dialect? Can you describe that situation?
Mhm. I can't think of any time that it has. Um, and if there was a time, I probably forgot about it because I have bad memory. Um, let me think. Let me think. Probably the hardest thing wasn't necessarily that a word was different, but just an accent was different, and so it made it hard to actually hear what word they were saying. And so I had to
Mm,
sit there and be like, okay, what did they just say? So I think that's probably been the only thing I can think of. Like, they're giving directions or something, and I'm like, wait, what did you just say? Like, you need to repeat that because I did not understand your accent at all. So
mm.
that's the only thing I can think of.
All right, good. Okay, moving on to the ninth question. Do you think using dialects is appropriate in daily conversation with your friends from different cultures, like using your dialect right now? Is it
Mm.
is it appropriate as being used in daily conversations?
I think definitely in just daily conversations, it can be. I think if you need to have like a deeper or conversation or a more formal one, you should try
Mhm.
to match more of their dialect if possible, and it doesn't come across as rude. Sometimes it can come across as you're trying to mock or copy them, and so obviously you don't want to come across that way.
Mhm.
But I think definitely in daily conversations, it's fine. I mean, it's kind of necessary in some ways, unless you want to totally change how you talk with people, and I think that might come across as fake. But that could also be the American view. The American way of thinking of things oftentimes is be yourself, do what you do what you're used to doing, and don't change because others want you to change. And so,
Mhm.
as an American, I would
Yeah,
say you should just use your normal dialect that you're used to. But
yeah,
other cultures might say, no, you need to try to be more like the person you're around so that you're
yeah.
not making it harder for them. So I can see both sides. I don't know.
That's a very good question. That's a very good answer, Catherine. Okay. Just to update, we actually
Mhm.
have 12 questions instead
Okay,
of 10. So
that's
yeah,
fine.
yeah. Okay, the 10th question. Have you ever experienced a misunderstanding or conflict due to language or cultural differences? And how did you manage to resolve it?
Um, Kind of like I said with the other question, I can't think of any on the top of my head. Um, I guess the biggest thing would be language barrier. There were some students who we met in Malaysia who
Yeah.
didn't speak much English, and I
Yeah.
don't speak any Bahasa. So I was sitting there
Mhm.
like trying to pull out translator apps, trying to have other students translate for me. So I would say in those cases, I navigated it by simply trying to be like trying to find someone else who speaks Bahasa and English both, or using Google Translate. So um, and the big thing I think with those any situation like that is to be patient and to listen well, to be not being frustrated because you can't understand them. Like they're worth understanding, so you got to take your time to understand them.
All right. Okay. So what words, what Bahasa words that you know?
Uh,
Just words. I'm not asking for phrases
I
or anything.
I know chicken. I am.
Yeah, I am a
I was
for chicken.
just thinking about that the other day, and I was like, man, I forgot like most of the Bahasa I knew.
Yeah.
Because I haven't used it. I'm trying to think. I knew a bunch when I was not a bunch. I knew some when I was there, and I was very happy and proud of it. But now I forgot it all. I forgot. I do remember I am because I love chicken.
Yeah.
Um, I guess I remember. Um,
Just
I
I
don't
am.
remember.
Just chicken.
Yeah, just chicken.
All right, right, right. Okay. Moving on to the 11th question. In your experience, do you think Americans tend to prefer direct or indirect approaches at handling conflict? And how do you personally navigate conflict in intercultural situations?
That's hard. I feel
Yeah,
like in America we use both direct and indirect. It depends on if it's a more formal, like in more formal things, like if people want to be seen as like in very formal settings, people try to be more indirect simply because they don't want to come across as like being too strong. But that's not always true. Like in business, for example, people come across a lot more direct because they want what they want and they want to get it when they want it. Um, but in general, I think Americans do tend to want to be more direct. We're kind of like we just want the facts. We want you to tell us straight to the point kind of thing. Like we're
yeah,
very much I think so. I'd say in general, we tend to be more direct, but we do have times when we're indirect. We're just not always indirect. And how I've navigated is mainly, like I've said earlier, do a ton of listening when you're talking to someone. I found that at least it seemed like in Malaysia, people tend to be more indirect. And so I had to be like, okay, what are they actually saying? Are they trying to tell me something else too? Um, so like, because in the US, it's like you can usually tell when they'll usually tell you what they're saying or thinking. It's just straight. Not always though. Not always. Especially in the southern states where I live, people do try to be more polite, which means that they sometimes smile and say things that they think you want to hear, but they don't actually mean it. Um, so, but yeah, in general, more direct. And so I've just found that I have to learn to listen and to be patient and to be like, okay, let me ask a lot of questions. Ask a lot of questions if you're not sure.
Okay, that's the end of these serious questions. Now, the final one, Catherine. The final one is a bit relaxed this time. Okay, so this is the final question. So vomit all the thoughts that you have. Okay, all right. Okay. The 12th question, the final question. What advice would you give to someone who wants to communicate better with people from different cultures? Yeah.
Um,
What
I
advice?
guess exactly what I've been trying to say this whole time is listen. That's something that Uncle Doug, who you met, he kept telling us, learn to listen. Um, and I found that I myself sometimes don't listen to even my own roommate. And one day she had to tell me, Catherine, you don't listen to me. Just listen Don't try to solve my problems. Don't try to immediately talk. So whenever you're in any situation, not just intercultural, but specifically intercultural, because intercultural things can kind of get turned they can go south very quick because there's so many different miscommunications happen. So instead of always trying to put your thought out there, you got to learn to see what they're saying and try to see it from their point of view. And so secondly, not just listen, but try to put yourself in their shoes, try to understand, okay, what are they thinking? How are they viewing what I'm doing and saying? Because we all think what we're doing and saying is right, but maybe the other culture doesn't see it that way. And so you have to see, okay, what are they actually thinking about me? And not just assume. So listen and then put yourself in their shoes. And I think that'll really help you because a lot of miscommunication happens when people don't care about the other person, don't think they're worth listening to, and they don't think they're worth putting themselves in that person's shoes for. So
so the key word to your answer is basically understanding. Okay, got it. All right, Catherine, that's the end of the questions. So I'm going to end this recording, and probably we can talk a little bit about something else.
Okay, sounds good.
Right. Okay, thank you, Catherine.
Yeah, and thank you.